order. The Senate Regulated Industries and Utility Committee got 4 bills on the list this morning. We're going to start with Senate Bill 219. Senator Ginn, you can present that from where you sit if you'd like to. I direct people in your folders. You're going to have 2 versions. The first one is LC 364681. That was the original bill filed. Subsequently, there has been a committee sub that's been duly presented. It was actually in your file, most of it, at our last meeting, but it's now been assembled together. That's LC 364729S. That's what we'll be working off of this morning, Mr. Chairman. If you want to proceed and tell us what you got.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know the committee heard testimony on this bill before. We had a little discussion out in the hall, but one of the things that this bill solves for problem, y'all heard from Creature Comforts, said where they had 2 breweries and they couldn't pass product from one brewery to the other. So for me, what this bill actually does is allows for brewers, and only brewers, not your brew pubs, but it was a great work between the Georgia Beer Wholesalers and the Craft Brewers Guild to come up with this language. Said it does what we need it to do and allows for business to move forward here in Georgia. So I won't go into the details. I know everybody in here can read better than I can.
No, we need a quick detail. How is this different from the existing law?
Basically, you can have 2 breweries located at 2 different locations in the state. Said that, or you could have multiple more. You could have more breweries. But basically, what's going to happen is that if they're making product A over here at one location, product B at the other location, they could move that product back and forth. Said to sell at their location. Said and that's where really what we're trying to do is to help our brewers here in Georgia to be competitive across the country.
Okay, so does it raise the amount of beer they can serve to a customer on premises? Or
No,
change
sir.
that?
Said it keeps the same limit. Said on that.
How
One of
about
the things that we also do is if you had 2 breweries that were each allowed to make the 3,000 up to 3,000 barrel sales a year, said this puts a cap on it, regardless of how many breweries there are involved. Puts a cap on it to 6,000. So if you have 10 locations or whatever, said it doesn't go, but to the 6,000 that you would have if you had 2 locations.
And as far as what you can sell for somebody to take off premises, I know that was important to you last time. Does that stay the same
Exactly
as well?
the same,
All
yes,
right.
sir.
Senator Mullis, I recognize you for questions, and we got a couple other folks want to be heard on it.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Senator Ginn. Now, the last time that Senator Hunter Hill did something like this, they named a craft brewery after him, beer. Do you have this coming in the
I'm
future?
not going to die on that hill.
Okay. Now, does this kind of?
Well, aren't we just a lively little crowd?
That is
for
early
Monday
for-
morning?
It's Monday, baby.
That's good. One more question, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
right ahead.
Does this kind of fly in the face of the 3-tier system?
Actually, it complements the 3-tier system very
Do they
well.
think that?
I think so.
I don't think
Let's
so.
find out. We got
All right, I'm through.
Mr.
All of our partners are in favor of the bill. They fully support it, and they would like to see it passed with no amendments.
Did you have too much product this morning?
Got some with me
I
today.
got you. All right.
Well, let's just find out how the industry feels about this. Mr. Martin Smith, you've signed up to testify, and lo and behold, you've checked the 4 box, so let's find out.
The 4?
Yeah, you can be for or against.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
Be happy.
Mr. Chairman, Martin Smith, members of the committee, this is Joseph Cortez,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
the head of the,
Morning.
Georgia Craft Brewers Guild.
and I'm the head of the
Well,
Beer
just
Wholesaler Association.
couple
We
of-
just want to thank the chairman,
Let's get
members
this
of the committee,
photograph of kissing cousins.
particularly Senator Ginn on your guidance on this. As we talked about the other day, we were working in negotiation to come up with this and help this process. We like this bill. We support it. Our members support it. We appreciate the efforts on it, and would encourage you not to support any amendments to it because we feel it's great the way it is. Thank you.
Mr. Cortez. You got a second to that emotion?
I second that. He said it perfectly. We thank you for helping our craft brewers that many are in your communities take a step forward in the ability to transfer. And like you said, we've worked together on this, and we appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Ginn.
Senator, again, I'm impressed that you've brought everybody together, and I'll recognize you for a motion if you feel it's appropriate.
I'm gonna let
Unless you want to talk people out of it. Okay.
One of the things that I do want to point out, said the great works of our legislative council on this, said that's really the icing on the cake, and I'll say her name, Michelle Marie, said so for me, that is one of those things that we have exceptional staff, and I'd like to commend Ms. Story for that.
Was this your 2 a.m. phone call to her the other night when I was bugging her at 2:15?
4 to 7,
Okay.
she doesn't slow down, she's always working, and I applaud her for her great efforts to make this reality, so.
All right. I recognize Pro Tem for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, but it's conditional. If we could get these two guys to hug. That's the
Okay.
photograph of the Times right
All
there.
right, Bonita's here just in
I would
time.
make the motion to, so move.
All right, we got to move due pass
Do
by
move.
committee
Do pass.
substitute. Got a second by Senator Albers. Any conversation from Senator Lucas? This is back to your craft beers, the Bonita Special. I think he's just, the cat got his tongue. All right, are there any further discussion of that? All in favor, raise your hand. And all opposed? All right. We have one malcontent that didn't get enough craft beer last night.
I'm a sissy. I'm a domestic guy.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate all y'all's efforts, and you too, Chairman, again, for making this come together. Next bill on our agenda this morning is Senate Bill 217 by Senator Kennedy. This deals with COAMs. He's agreed to let us skip him in favor of the Pro Tem who pulled seniority on him. Senate Bill 236 that you're carrying from Senator Brass this morning. If you'll just present there from your chair, Mr. Pro Tem, and let us know what you got.
That'd be terrific. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'll give you a little bit of backdrop on this. As we're all aware, in my personal opinion, I don't think that two industries were hit harder by the pandemic than hospitality and healthcare. And fortunately for healthcare, they continued to get paid even though they were overwhelmed and worked incredible hours, et cetera. The hospitality industry has suffered immensely, and this bill is brought forward for the opportunity to alleviate some of the pain and suffering going on there. This Bill 236, SB 236, and I'm presenting on behalf of the chairman from the 28th, provides for the sale of mixed drinks for off-premise consumption. It provides restrictions in transportation. For instance, they have to either go in the glove box, or go in the trunk, or the furthest point away from the driver possible. It provides for the taxes on mixed drinks, just like you would have them in the restaurant. It provides for the rules and regulations for the Commission, for the Department of Revenue. It also restricts it to, just like we currently have, purchase of 21 years or older. The receipt from the purchase of this off-premise consumed mixed drink must be time-stamped and with a date and the time of the purchase, and you can only purchase 2 drinks for every adult entree. The customer must place, as I mentioned, place the drinks as far away as possible, and it is these drinks that we're describing are beverages that combine distilled spirits with some non-alcoholic. I think we call that a chaser, wouldn't we, Senator Lucas? Be a chaser if it's in a separate glass. But it it provides for an approved container, a tamper-proof container that would have a seal on it, a label that would be that you'd have to break the seal in order to open the drink, so that we don't have to. We're not afraid that people are drinking and driving, or we're not encouraging that. And again, it's taxed in accordance with the distilled spirits sale by the drink. And I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your and the committee's favorable consideration.
Am I correct that you would only be able to purchase drinks to go if you also had purchased food?
Yes, sir.
So you
Two
couldn't
drinks
just go
for,
up and order a drink and no entree?
2 drinks for each adult entree.
Other committee members have questions for the presenter? Senator Mullis.
You could go there and ask for a meal to go.
Yes, sir.
And also drink, like a corn dog or whatever, you could have that to go with.
If that is deemed an adult entree in that,
well, I just-
in that particular establishment.
I didn't know.
You could get a corn dog. You could get a corn dog naked. You could get a corn dog walking
Okay, with mustard.
with mustard.
Senator Tippins, did you have a question or just, I thought I saw you raise your hand? Okay,
It's wanting to fly.
all right. Senator Rett.
You can try 5.
5? Okay, I
Yes.
got you lit up.
Just a little clarification, Pro Tem. Do the restaurants have to have a certain amount of receipts and food to do this? And the reason I ask that is because, you know, where I'm at, our American Legion post, we wanted to serve beverages on Sunday, but we had to also have a certain amount of receipts for food that we sold.
There is a ratio for receipts for food and drinks for to be deemed a restaurant versus a bar. I don't know that that section of the code offhand, but this would not be in violation of that.
All right.
Right, yes.
I'm sorry, we missed that. I didn't have your mic on there, Senator Lucas.
I was telling him that went for Sundays, not regular weeknight days. Oh, that was Sunday drinking. You had to show the receipts for your food.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. That was Pro Tem, I was thinking about selling.
Other questions from committee members? All right, I have several people signed up who would like to be heard on this. I'm just going to go in order. Mr. Travis Birch from Heirloom Cafe in Athens, Georgia. Come on in.
Look here.
Can you hear us okay, Travis? We see you.
I can hear you
All right.
okay.
We hear you great. Go right ahead.
So I would like to thank Chairman Cowsert and the rest of the committee for allowing me to speak this morning, and also would like to thank Senator Cowsert and Senator Ginn for their service to our community. We appreciate that. My name is Travis Birch, and my partner Jessica Rothacker and I are co-owners of Heirloom Cafe in Athens, Georgia. We're a small farm-to-table restaurant in a repurposed Amico station in the Boulevard historic neighborhood of Athens. We have 30 employees. If we make it to June, we will have been in business for 10 years. We have enjoyed our work. This last year has been a real challenge. I'll give a little background. On July 5th of 2019, my wife Susie had triple bypass surgery, and she did well after that surgery and was recovering very well. On March 18th, our restaurant closed because the city of Athens said no more dine-in, and we have. I'm sitting in our restaurant, and this is what it's looked like since March 18th of last year. We do not have dine-in service inside of our building. It just does not work out for social distancing requirements and for staff and guest safety. On the 20th of March, my partner came to me and said, "You need to leave the building and not come back. You are in the at-risk group, and no matter how healthy you think you are, I'm not going to let you take anything home tomorrow." So for 6 weeks, I stayed away from the building when anybody else was in place. when people were gone, I got to come in. I painted the bathrooms. I painted other parts of the building, but I had to stay away until the governor allowed us to reopen the building, and we had safety protocols, and we felt better about that. During that time that I was off, other than painting, I was planning with our landlord about how we could create more outdoor space for our guests. And we turned our bocce court into a patio. We turned part of our parking lot into a patio, and we plan to cover our main patio. And so what we ended up with is 50 seats outside where we normally have 84 seats outside and inside. So we're operating at about 60% capacity. So as the weather got better, our business got a little bit better, but in our pivot to outdoor and takeout and curbside, we have a no contact curbside approach. That got better. We appreciated the fact that we became able to sell beer and wine in closed containers to customers who are our takeout customers, and that was helpful. To give some perspective, New Year's Eve is one of our best nights of the year, and that gets us ready for the slow January that we typically have in a college town. Last year, our New Year's Eve, because we're only outdoor, we chose to do only meal kits, so only takeout, and it was about 25% of a normal New Year's Eve. Valentine's Day typically is the best day in February, and it kind of marks business getting better after the winter. Again, Valentine's Day, we did meal kits only and did about 20% of our normal Valentine's Day sales. So when I say it's been interesting, our pivot has been challenging. Last week we had 4 things to celebrate. One, on Thursday, my wife had a birthday, so that was something to celebrate. On Tuesday, I got my second vaccine shot, so that was something to celebrate. And on Monday, we were funded for our PPP second round draw. And the reason we qualified for a second round PPP was because we had to have one quarter in which our sales were at least 25% lower than the previous same quarter in 2019. We chose the second quarter of 2020 because our sales were 25% of sales of the same period in 2019. Now we're operating at about 55 to 60% of sales, and that is not really sustainable. The PPP second round loan will allow us to make it to our birthday, so we'll have something else to celebrate. The fourth thing that we had to celebrate was last Saturday night. We had one of the best Saturday nights we've had in some time, because we decided to celebrate Open That Bottle Night, which is and we had a special arrangement, special prices on by the bottle wines that we priced at half or less of their normal price for takeout and for dine-in, and we sold quite a few bottles of wine. Thanks to you guys recognizing that could be a tool to help us do better and survive.
So what do you think about this bill? You support it?
I do, very much. We know that our guests would like to have a mixed drink to go with their takeout meal. We've gotten feedback from guests wondering why they can't have a cocktail when we can sell them beer or wine. And we say, well, you know, it's against the law, so we can't do it. But we do know that that would add to our toolbox. It'd be a great tool to increase our revenue, and because cocktails are the best profit margin part of our business, it would also create more margin to help us pay our bills, pay our staff, and make it to December. So
All right.
we very much support the bill. We appreciate the fact that you guys are considering it. We hope that it will pass this year, because this year is when we need it. And so I'm very much in support of it, and we do appreciate the consideration.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. You do have just a fabulous restaurant, and we wish you well and hope we hit that 10-year anniversary. Thank
We
you.
look forward to seeing you and Senator again in the restaurant soon. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Appreciate it. Ms. Karen Bremer, come on in and let us know what the Georgia Restaurant Association thinks about this bill. I want y'all to realize this is one of the first ones we've had that is not a committee substitute. So I'm going to compliment Senator Brass and the pro tem for getting it right the first time. You know, we'll see. We'll fix it on the floor. Karen. For those that didn't hear, his microphone wasn't on. He said he'll fix that on the floor. Right. Ms. Bremer.
Good
give
morning,
us your
Chairman
views.
Cowser. Good morning, Senators. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this morning. And I had planned a fairly lengthy presentation, not going into that today. I don't need to belabor the point of how devastated the restaurant industry has been. In the state of Georgia, we believe we have 3,800 restaurants closed out of the approximately 18,500. Last year, our revenue took a hit of $5 billion. We still have roughly 100,000 workers out of work right now. All this bill does is create the revenue stream for full-service restaurants. When I say full-service restaurants, restaurants that serve alcohol, will give them back part of their revenue stream that they are losing right now because they cannot accommodate enough. Many of them are not even reopened because they can't practice this. They can't get the 6-foot distancing. And so all this will do is give back the most profitable part to a restaurant under very strict rules. We do not want bottles of alcohol. We do not want shots. We do not want delivery. We want people to show up, the person who ordered it, show their identification, pay for it, and take it home under the rules of Merlot to go. And that's specifically what we're asking for. And as I just ask you to please give it favorable consideration. We've done many things to help the restaurant industry this year. All of y'all have, and it is muchly appreciated. And this would be something that would give back some hope to some of those restaurants that are just teetering right now.
And that identification is necessary because this bill requires you to be 21 years of age to take a beverage to go.
Yes, sir. And all of our training that we do statewide through Serve Save Alcohol emphasizes the fact that you must check identification, and it is against the law to serve somebody that's obviously intoxicated. And that would be emphasized also in the training with this.
Thank you. Senator Ginn has a question.
No question, but I was complimenting her on her red and black attire that she's wearing, Senator
She knows how
Cowser.
to work the committee. She's after the minority leader as well.
I'm thinking it's a good go dogs kind of day, but when you're ready for a motion, we're.
All right, so we've got some other people who'd like to be heard
Yes.
on this. Any of y'all see how all the golfers wore red shirts in honor of Tiger Woods yesterday? That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yes.
I thought that showed a lot of class. Thank you, Ms. Bremer. We appreciate you being with us.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Griffin,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay?
After you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mike Griffin, Public Affairs Representative with the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. Seems like this is a regular occurrence here, but I do appreciate each of you for allowing me the opportunity to say something on this legislation. Please put your tomatoes up. All right, thank you very much. But seriously, as you know, Georgia Baptists oppose any loosening of restrictions on alcohol. We're not here to lobby on behalf of making it more restrictive, but we're not in favor of loosening it up. And again, our principle is a public health and safety issue. We're not here for prohibition. Our point is being concerned that this is going to put more alcohol in the car. And the concern also is not that the law's not good, because I think the regulations on this is very tight. But there's two things that you know very well about good legislation. There's the legislation, and then there's the enforcement of it. And I think this is going to be very hard to enforce. And if my understanding correctly in talking with Senator Brass about this would also allow you to take 2 mixed drinks with you, having already eaten in the restaurant, and walk out with 2 as well, not just for takeout, but while you're consuming. Now, unless y'all have changed something on it, I'll let Mr. Pro Tem, if he wants to ask me a question. Mr. Chairman, if that's all right with you.
To my understanding, Mr. Chairman, and to Mr. Griffin, that is not the case, but we'll make sure that we clarify that.
Okay, well, that was my understanding. We would still oppose the bill, again, on the basis of the public health and safety issue. And again, in dealing with these things, here's the system of understanding the misuse or the problems with alcohol. And I've seen this for 35 years of being a pastor here. Accessibility equals sales, sales equals consumption, and consumption always equals the potential of greater problems. And that's our concern. Now, I know that the legislation I did just read does say if there was already something prohibiting this in local law, it couldn't happen unless it was
That's
changed.
true. And that would apply to Sunday sales laws and as well
Right.
as open container ordinances. I've made a lot of money in Athens, Georgia, representing
Right.
Georgia Bulldog fans that don't realize that even though you can tailgate on campus, you step in the city of Athens, you can't.
And there's a reason for that, isn't there?
Yes, to make
I mean,
money.
isn't there?
Great
No,
revenue
well,
generator for the city and for the law.
I understand, but the reason there's greater restrictions is because every life is important. You don't want anybody killed.
That's right.
So again, we're not letting people take Coca-Colas and Pepsis out. Okay, this is alcohol. This is not just a beer either. You get 2 mixed drinks. Now this is what they tell me because I wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? But that's like getting a 6-pack to go with you by way of the alcohol content that's in this. So again, this is not as benign as it may appear. And that's our concern with this as well, is that it becomes, again, another, and I talk about the enforcement. I mean, what if this happens at night? I mean, it's got to be supposedly, again, I talked with the senator about this, supposed to be like in the 3rd seat back or in the trunk. But I'm just saying, where's going to be I mean, unless somebody was pulled over, I'm sure that the officer could tell. But I'm sure that as they're getting pulled over, they're moving stuff around so the officer can't see it. And they've already been consuming potentially some alcohol, which you say we'll make sure that that's not something that's already happened. Again, I'm concerned also about the ability to enforce this as well. It just opens up another opportunity. Again, this is not mean to be demeaning to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the fact that in my 35 years and 60 years living in the state of Georgia most of the time, it's like we'll never be satisfied on the other side, the industry side, unless it's sold 24/7 and from every lemonade stand. I mean, it's just getting that way. It's just like there's never enough to draw the
Senator
line.
Ginn
But
had
thank
a
you,
question
Mr.
for you.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a question. I hope
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
Said, Mr. Griffin said, I know you do great work, said and I appreciate that.
Sure.
I am curious, is there ever an alcohol bill that does anything to loosen alcohol or the consumption of alcohol that you'd ever support?
Loosening, we do not. We're just for leaving the line just the way it is. We're not here for adding any other restrictions whatsoever. We're just here to say, let's just draw a line and let's just keep it right there, because times are becoming more dangerous, the stress, the issues that are going on. And I don't know of any social ill or problem that would be better if we'd add some more alcohol into it. So I just think it's just it's not prohibition. It's not even saying it's wrong to drink. It's just saying we need to always make sure that we keep those benchmarks as reasonably high as possible. And like I said, folks with good motives can disagree. We can just disagree on that
I
standard. That doesn't mean
recognize the
anything
minority
wrong.
leader for a final question, so we have some other testimony coming after you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman. Mr. Griffin, would you think that it would be more responsible if a person would take their drinks home, or would it be more irresponsible to sit at the bar or wherever they are and drink the drinks and then go home and have to drive and maybe impaired?
Well, if I could prove that it would be, but I can't. Let me tell you why I can't. Because just because people drink at home doesn't mean they're not going to get on the road again. And sometimes, and you'll have somebody come in here in just a minute that will verify that many times there's greater supervision drinking alcohol in a restaurant or in a bar than there is at home. In other words, they were going to make sure that they only get so much and that they're not inebriated by the time they leave. So there actually can be more responsibility placed on that business owner, because I believe the Restaurant Association and others will say that they work hard at making sure that those restrictions are kept so that they're not getting on the road drunk.
But hopefully that person that's taking that drink home is going home.
Right, and I mean, again, that was just
We're
like
not
with the
trying
home
to-
delivery. You know, people do have parties at home.
Yeah, but we're not trying to guess at whether that person is going to stay home or not. We just want them to be able to take it home. And that's it.
And drink it. I understand that.
Maybe they won't even drink it until the next day.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Thank you. Appreciate you. We have Ryan Turner, who's also going to be by Zoom. I hope.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Can you hear us okay, Ryan?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I just want to say thank you, Chairman Cowsert and the committee for your consideration. And I really want to thank Karen Bremer and her team and the Georgia Restaurant Association for the work they've been doing this year and for the past 10 years advocating for our industry and doing their best to protect us. And so I want to say thank you to Karen as well. Appreciate the opportunity and appreciate you all considering this bill. For the record, I do support it. I am a partner. I have two other partners in a restaurant group in Metro Atlanta. We're in the Northwest Corridor. Our first restaurant we opened just over 16 years ago, called Muss & Turner's. Has been in our neighborhood for a long time. We've been very fortunate. We have our second restaurant is Local 3, which we opened just over 10 years ago in Buckhead. Adjoining Local 3 is a private dining club called Warhorse Investments, which we opened 3.5+ years ago now. And then we have a pizza restaurant in Smyrna called MTH Pizza, which we opened in October of 19. Going into, I guess, a year ago, we had our best year ever in 2019. We were very optimistic for our industry and our company in particular. Obviously, everyone knows what happened. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I'll give you guys, y'all some numbers, ladies and gentlemen, I think that will just tell the story of where we sit and the impact that this could have on our business. We've been able to maintain about 65% of our sales since the pandemic hit, which we feel incredibly fortunate to have been able to achieve that. Our team has done an amazing job, and we are incredibly fortunate to have very loyal guests in all of our restaurants, and the support of the community has been unbelievable. 65%, obviously, without PPP is not going to cut it. We have been, we did receive the first round. We did receive the second round. Very grateful for that and the assistance that the government has provided us at this time. Our to-go, I'll just say our prepared meal sales, we did not do what we call family meals prior to the pandemic. And what we call family meals are now prepared meals for people to pick up to take home for dinner. We started doing that right after the pandemic happened, like within a few days. And so our PM business, our dinner business, our to-go food was less than 1% of our sales prior to the pandemic. And since, we'll call it March 16th is kind of our marker, it has been at Local 3 and Warhorse about 13% of our sales, of that 65%, and for Muss & Turner's about 11%. And so, and the pizza place is naturally a takeout restaurant, and we do not serve liquor there, so that's not in the equation for us for this bill. So if you look at just of the 65%, 11% on average being prepared meals to take home that people are enjoying, it's a significant aspect of our revenue right now that We're not sure if it's going to go away once, whenever the coast is clear, but it may be a revenue source that we may be able to hang on to. We have had multiple requests for folks who have been purchasing beer and wine to take home packaged, and we very much appreciate that being passed because it has had a significant impact on our sales. But we've had a lot of people also ask if they could have one of our specialty cocktails. A lot of folks come to our restaurants for what in the culinary world they call mixology, which is basically the bartenders are kind of like chefs, and they make fresh ingredients and fresh juices and tinctures, all kinds of stuff, which I honestly can't keep up with these days. But folks, is stuff that folks wouldn't normally do at their home. And so they do like to have and enjoy a drink like that. And so being able to buy a couple to take home, I know would be very favorable with our clientele. And if you just take some basic math and say we were able to do 2 cocktails per entree at $25, our average cocktails between $12 and $14. These specialty cocktails, I should say, not a well drink. And we did maybe 4 per entity a day. You're talking about a couple $100 per day, 350 days a year, $70,000. Our margin is about 22% on that. It comes to about $55,000. That is the equivalent to saving a salary for one of our managers. So once the runway of PPP is over, we will not be able to survive on 65% of our sales without massive changes in our labor model and our salaries. And we've got people who have been with us well over 10 years that we literally consider family. And so I look at it very simply. This small additional stream of revenue could save someone that we care dearly about and not put them on the street. And so I just want to say thank you very much for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. We're getting a little low on time. I'm going to be dining at your establishment Wednesday night. Being a teetotaler, I won't be able to try those cocktails, but I certainly look forward to your food. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Now let's have Michael Mumper, please.
Hello,
Mr. Mumper.
Chairman Cowser.
Welcome
Thank
to
you.
our committee. If we are all socially distanced, you may remove your mask if you're comfortable. You're willing to keep it on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senators. This is my first time ever testifying in the House or Senate, so I'm a little nervous, so forgive me.
Don't be scared. Just
Thank
tell
you.
the truth.
I am a citizen who lives in Fayette County, Georgia. I work in the substance abuse prevention field, and I come here with that hat on and public health. I respect the fact that this bill is trying to keep people at home at a time when the pandemic is still dangerous, and that it's pro-business. But there are social health, public health impacts to anything that does with alcohol. Alcohol is intoxicating to the mind. It can harm the organs. It's addictive, and it can cause drunk driving. In fact, and I'm not a teetotaler. I'm not promoting that, but I just want to balance business and public health concerns, which are not always in sync. And in fact, there's significant scientific research that shows that off-premise alcohol sales consumption has a stronger association with some of these harms, like violence and child abuse and spousal abuse and hospital admissions and impaired driving. That happens more often on curbside sales and home delivery than it does on premise. So ultimately, I have 5 points I'd like to make. One is the public health impact. Number 2 is the need for additional training, compliance checks, and violations. Third is a limit on the alcohol that can be sold at any one time. Fourth is consideration for a sunset of this bill. And fifth is ensuring local control for local communities. So again, with the public health impact, as I study what other states are doing, they often do a public health impact study. And a year or so after a bill like this is passed, they do a study and say, what were the revenues generated? The people that were kept safe from COVID, perhaps, balanced against things like car crashes, hospital admissions, additional people going into treatment, et cetera. And I think other bills in other states put that in the bill, that they're going to fund a public health impact. Secondly, with training and compliance, there are many areas in which this bill does not address that I think may be important. One is to mandate employee training for curbside checking of IDs. The restaurants where I get curbside are often provided by a 19-year-old who may not be a server normally, and yet they'll be out there at the curb checking IDs, and they may not have training. North Carolina has a very good curbside training program. Secondly, many states fund additional compliance checks, and that could be important. Tennessee did a study during COVID on curbside orders specifically, and out of 171 checks, 63 of them sold to minors. So that's a 37% violation rate that it would be, but our compliance people are stretched thin as it is, so we really could use additional funding for compliance. And thirdly, I respect that there's a label being put on these to-go orders. Since they're being taken home and maybe laid on the counter, it'd probably be appropriate. In fact, other states do this. They put in big capital letters, contains alcohol, so that at least our young children have a chance to know that this is not Kool-Aid. Then I'll go to the third point, which is the alcohol limit. Yes, these can be mixed drinks, but the way the bill is written, it can be 4.5 ounces of distilled spirits per drink, no matter how much additional stuff you put on top of it that's non-alcoholic. And 4.5 ounces of distilled spirits is like 3 drinks, 3 shots, 3 beers, 3 glasses of wine. So when you get 2 of them, that's like a 6-pack. And you can imagine what a 6-pack on top of a corn dog might have on your body. I would suggest consideration of limiting it to 1 drink per entree and or limiting it to 1.5 ounces or 3 ounces per drink. Fourth point is sunset. I respect the fact that this is very, as I understand, COVID-oriented. We're trying to help our businesses in Georgia, which I respect. People are forced to stay at home. Some of them want to drink. And I'm not against that on principle. But if this is COVID-related and the vaccines are being rolled out, and with God's grace, we're going to have something close to normal mid-2022, 21, 22, that we should sunset this bill at an appropriate time. And I don't know the legal language, if it's 6 months, if it's when business is back to normal. I'm not sure how to evaluate that, but I'd strongly suggest that. And fifth, I know lines 29 and 30 say unless otherwise prohibited by local ordinance or resolution. I'm a big proponent of local control. I don't understand the legal language, but I do want to ensure that local communities would have the right to opt in or opt out of this bill. And I appreciate the testimony. That's all I have.
You're fantastic. You gave us logical, rational, concise testimonies we hear in this committee, so don't be nervous and come back. Senator Ginn, though, has a question for you, so this is the tough part.
That's not a tough part. For me, I understand your concern with alcohol and some of the things that unchecked create a problem in our society. I've been hit by a head-on collision with a drunk driver. It's a problem. But for me, alcohol is not the problem. It's the excess and the abuse of it that creates the problem. When you say you want to limit to instead of 2 drinks to 1 drink, you know, one of the things that I think about is when somebody goes to a package store or a retail sales establishment where they're selling alcohol, we don't put any limit on that. You can back up as big a truck as you got. So what's the difference in somebody going to a restaurant, which, you know, those people have been hit the hardest of anybody in our society with our economics of what's going on. So what's the difference between what's going on at a restaurant and what's going on at a retail sales store?
Fair question. Thank you. With alcohol, I'm not against any single person having the right to alcohol and a business making money from that. From a public health perspective, we're looking at the big picture. And the big picture is the more accessible alcohol is, the more the society will drink it. It's just science and math. And the more alcohol is drank as a society, the more harms will result. So if this came up in, I don't know what I'd do if this was a bill presented for a liquor store, but I'd you know, honestly, just from that rationale alone, I'd probably be a proponent of limiting. But, you know, we're not here on that, and I just want to not increase vastly the accessibility of alcohol, like 6 drinks for 1 entree, because that's what this bill does.
Thank you. Would you do me a favor and sort of wait in the hall after this concludes? I'd like to see you had some written comments. I'd like to make a copy of those for my edification.
Sure.
Thank you very much and appreciate your testimony. I have one final person signed up, Alan LeBlanc, and then we'll deal with the issues. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Mr.
all.
Mumford.
Appreciate you.
Nice presentation. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, and the rest of the committee. Thank you very much for hosting us today. My name is Alan LeBlanc. My wife and I own a company called Brew to Serve Restaurant Group, Inc. We have 3 restaurants in the city of Atlanta, 2 on Peachtree Street downtown. One is White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, and as you can tell, cocktails is in its name. We also that was opened in 2012. We own Max Lager's Wood-Fired Grill and Brewery, which is on Peachtree Street downtown, and we opened that one in 1998. Our most recent restaurant is Bold Monk Brewing Company. I'm sorry, people can't see over there, which we opened in 2019, just before the start of the pandemic. We are an independent restaurant operator, and I've had the benefit of listening to, as best I could, the testimony so far outside in the hallway. Secondly, I'd like to thank the legislature and the governor for doing all that they can and could to assist our industry. I have friends around the country and around the world that have restaurants, and every day I am thankful that we are here in the state of Georgia, and they have allowed us to operate as effectively as we can for our team, our guests, and our community. Let's see. We all know that revenue has been negatively impacted, and anything that we can do to enhance revenue is beneficial to our industry. One of the things that in the previous testimony, this isn't about really expanding accessibility to alcohol. This is about the ability to, on one hand, promote food sales for independent restaurants. People come to independent restaurants, and our teams of service people know that they just don't come here for food. They go there for the total experience. As Ryan mentioned, many of our cocktails would be impossible to be made at home. You just don't have the ingredients. And to promote food to go, to promote the experience, the cocktails would be an added benefit to a revenue stream that would be beneficial to our restaurants. My 2 downtown restaurants have suffered dramatically. As a matter of fact, Max Lager's Wood-Fired Grill and Brewery has not reopened. We hope that it will open in the next month or so. White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, we opened in August to basically service the marts that open and the downtown community. We've been in the community, as I've alluded to, for 22 years. And we feel that it's part of our mission to serve the community, not just to operate for a profit. In fact, we've been losing money. with revenue at about 15% of our previous sales before the pandemic. Well, it's only natural. You know, our hotels across the street are running 20 to 30% occupancy. The Georgia World Congress Center is virtually non-operational with no conventions. And the marts are 20 to 30%. So it takes me back over 20 years when we first opened a 10,000 square foot restaurant in downtown Atlanta, and people thought my wife and I were crazy. You know, it was an experience of peaks and valleys. When people were in town, we had business. When people weren't in town, we didn't. And we worked 20 years with the hotels, the downtown community, to make Atlanta, I mean, really transform downtown to something that lived day to day at a very high level. And now we're back to, well, when people are downtown, we get a spike in business, and when people aren't, it's not. The issue about this as well, if you want to look at controlling and liquor accessibility, the most expensive option that somebody's going to have is to buy food and cocktails from an independent restaurant. If it's just about alcohol, they're not going to come to us. You know, they're going to go to the liquor store. And yeah, I'm not anti anything, okay? I'm just telling it like it is. I mean, our food is expensive. Our cocktails are expensive relative to, you know, if somebody's going to order takeout, you can go to Chipotle and all the quick service that don't offer alcohol. But if you want a short rib and maybe an old fashioned, at the Hyatt Regency across the street, you know, call White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails. Come across the street and take a nice meal. You know, this is not for me particularly about residences. I'm not doing to go at high volumes at my downtown restaurant. At Bullmonk Brewing Company, yes, we do pick up and to go.
You support the bill?
I do.
All right.
I support
Well, we need to hear.
you know, I support our industry in any way, shape, or form. And even if it's to my detriment as an independent restaurant. We're bigger than most. You know, my wife's a CPA, MBA. We have, we've a lot of experiences in stuff like that. I support our industry for opportunity for all people who seek to pursue their dreams.
It's been rougher on your industry than most. So what do you do, like at Max Loggers, when you can't be open? Is your rent still getting paid, or are you just getting deeper in the hole each month, or do you get any help there?
You know, I'm blessed. When we first opened our restaurant at Max Loggers, you know, we started with a lawsuit with our landlord. You know, it inevitably happens. It's never easy. Yeah. Well, you know, the pandemic, I think, has been beneficial for lots of industries. But over the 20 years that we've worked with our landlord that owns a hotel next door, we do business developing trust. You know, relationships of trust, like with Dick Bowers downtown in 260, 270. Mr. Liu at Max Loggers, yes, we pay rent. We've gotten some rent forgiven, and we are looking to make some investments in the property so that when we do open, it's a little better. Our bathrooms will be renovated, but we run prudently. We've had it 22 years. We have no debt on it. We could have put debt on it a couple years back and bought out our partners, and my wife said, "What, are you crazy? You know, you don't know."
Married to a CPA.
Yeah.
You know, this committee had our committee dinner at Max Loggers last year, is why I'm familiar with it.
Well, thank you very much.
Fantastic.
We appreciate it,
We
and
hope you
we
can
we
keep
put
it
a
alive.
we put a lot of heart and soul in everything we do. And White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, we look to be downtown for another 20 years, and we build restaurants to last a long time.
Well, thank you for sharing with us today. We appreciate it, and stand by out there. You might see some action on this bill.
Well, thank you very much.
Any Senator have a motion. This time it would be appropriate. It's LC 364693. Would be a motion to either do pass or do not pass. Which way you want to go here, Mr. Rules Chairman?
You got a coin? Hey, I got the floor. He just recognized me.
You're the only one whose microphone's lit up, so.
Mr. Chairman, I move to do pass.
Is there a second? Second by, we got competing seconds by Senator Ginn and Albers, but, okay, Ginn's the alcohol senator, so we'll let him second. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Pro Tem.
Real briefly, I would just like to thank Alan and others for coming down to testify and looking it up over the weekend. I tried to prepare a little bit for presenting this in Senator Brass's stead. Red Snapper, Brasserie, De Rio's, Foundation Eatery, Casino, Rise and Shine, Tavern, Amsterdam, The Shed, Octane, Annalise, Noble Finn, Dantana's, Ann and Bill's, all closed in the last 6 months. They had been open an average of 17 years. These weren't startup places, ladies and gentlemen. And it was. I think it had something to do with, never mind. And also I'd like to point out that the Restaurant Association, there was some discussion earlier about public health expense and training and so forth. The Restaurant Association is committed to Ben's Friends, which is a organization that helps alcohol and substance abuse workers within the industry, and also Team Georgia trains against drunk driving and alcohol abuse. So these folks are giving back, and also it includes local control. I thank the committee. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All right, then all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Any opposed, like sign. All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem, for presenting the Vice Chairman's bill. All right, we have one last item on our agenda today. We have the room for 30 more minutes until 11:30. Senator Kennedy, I don't know if that gives you enough time, but I'd like for you to describe your bill, and then I have 5 people from various coin-operated industry folks and those opposed to it that I'd like to get us educated slightly at least.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me a chance to present this bill to the committee. And I want to thank you also for you being generous with your time, not only with me, but various stakeholders that have an interest in what we're talking about. And I'm going to be brief so that we can get on to the other folks that can address the committee. This bill addresses the COAM industry, the coin-operated amusement machine industry. And we actually had a study committee in the summer of 2020, and a lot of folks served on that committee. We had people from the industry. We had the chairman or the chairlady, the president of the Georgia Lottery Association, Georgia Lottery Corporation on the study committee, and we learned a lot. I won't go into all of that, but the brief history of this is that in 2013, I think our distinguished pro tem actually carried the legislation that set the model that we now have for the COAM industry, which is in essence a 3-legged stool. You've got the master license, what are called the master license holder, which owns a license that can then contract with a location. The second leg, or we think of as the convenience store, and then the third leg is really the Georgia Lottery Corporation that runs, manages, if you will, oversees, and is responsible for the the regulation on the COAM industry. Coming out of that, and the model that was created in 2013, we have in essence, there have been 2 problems that have plagued the industry. One is that of cash payouts. That's illegal under the statute that we have, and appropriately so, and that's what you have seen in the newspapers from time to time, where locations have been the subject of enforcements and lawsuits and forfeitures by various district attorneys. And the second has been that of inducements. And the inducement angle of this is really what we've tried to focus on, what I've tried to focus on with this bill. Inducements are where, well, let me back up. The statute provides that there's a prescribed division of the net revenue between the three legs of the three-legged stool. 45% of the net revenue goes to the master license holder, and that is the person that invests in the machines and puts their machines in the second leg of the stool, which is the convenience store, the location. And the prescribed division of net revenue is 45% to the master license holder, 45% to the location, and then 10% to the Georgia Lottery. The problem has come where inducements are being demanded by locations or offered by master license holders for payment for the signing of a contract, the placement of machines. That, of course, is a total circumvention of the statutory prescription of how revenue is divided, and that's what's illegal under the statute. This bill does a few other things other than trying to address the issue of illegal inducements. It also addresses transparency issues, requiring additional information that needs to go to the Georgia Lottery so they can properly manage and regulate as they do. We have, Mr. Chairman, I know you're aware of this because you've given us time to listen to us, but we have talked to many of the stakeholders in this industry, and quite frankly, this has been a work in progress. This has been a developing proposed piece of legislation. And while the bill that we have, and I appreciate the committee and the chairman allowing us to hear this, there's actually additional work being done over the weekend, quite frankly, since communications have been had with various other stakeholders. And so it's a work in progress. But if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Paul Oland, who is an attorney that practices exclusively in this field, to come walk us through the bill just very briefly, because there's 2 or 3 main provisions that will be modified, and he can speak to that as well. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Oland. Love your face mask.
Go Dogs.
Let me recognize you again there. Mr. Rules Chairman, did you have a comment there?
No, sir. I just concur.
That was a pretty wimpy little bark, but it's okay. Oh, was it? Oh, it might have been.
I apologize.
No, you're always welcome to woof in here.
And Mr. Chairman, that may be the last concurrence I get today, so I'll take what I can get. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to present. I was watching the hallway and heard you say very clearly we got about 30 minutes, so I will keep it short.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep all our speakers to about 5 minutes each if we can.
Sure. Okay. I appreciate the time, Senator Kennedy. I appreciate certainly the enormous amount of work that you've put into this thus far. I appreciate the time of all the senators that we've met with. What I want to say then in my brief time is that how we got here is through all of those discussions. This was a project that we started 9 or 10 months ago. Over those 9 or 10 months, we have met numerous times with Mr. Schneider on behalf of Gamoa and his individual clients that he represents. We have met with Edward Lindsay, who represents Lucky Bucks, another licensee in the industry, many times, and Edward has been generous with his time and his thoughts and his ideas. We have met with Mr. David Jaffer, who represents United C-Stores, who I think you're going to hear from all these individuals. And David has done really a great job advocating on behalf of his constituents. And certainly, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, but he has been wonderful to collaborate with. He's been very open to listening to our ideas. And that's the spirit with which we undertook this project to begin with. Frankly, this project began months ago in a hotel conference room with about 40 master licensees, and us talking and trying to figure out some way to make this work. And we want to continue that. You heard Senator Kennedy indicate that this bill, that the ideas have changed even over this weekend. That's a direct result, candidly, of, Mr. Chairman, your time that you spent with us on Thursday, and I appreciate that very much. And the eyebrow raises and the exhales and the humps that we've gotten from meeting with the individual senators on this bill. The bill that you have in front of you takes a crack at dealing with the inducement problem. It also provides additional funding to lottery. Coming out of the study committee that we had It attempts to assist veterans organizations in raising additional revenue through the operation of COAMs. It requires additional transparency to lottery on behalf of master licensees. It is overall an attempt to continue to push the industry forward, to modernize the industry, and get it into a place where we're not dealing with the problems that Senator Kennedy identified and that were identified in that study committee. So the bill, again, for 30,000 feet, really took the findings of the study committee and attempted to address those and attempted to address them in a way that we hoped could have as broad a coalition as possible. It's awfully difficult to please everybody. We certainly have learned a lot through this process. We want to continue that process. We want to continue those conversations. Mr. Jaffer has pledged his future time to continue to talk to us, as have others, Mr. Lindsay and the like. So we certainly want to address the issues that Senator Kennedy has raised. We think that this bill does that. We understand that this bill does not make everybody happy. It makes very few people happy. So we're going to continue those discussions. We're going to continue to meet with all of those constituents. While lottery, of course, will never bless a bill. It's not their place to do that. Any bill. I certainly have been grateful for their time, at least to listen to what these ideas are. So we're going to continue that, Senator Kennedy, in the hopes that we get it right as close as we can. I think our next step, again, given some of the discussions that we had last week, Mr. Chairman, is to, within the confines of the regulated industry, which provide the protections to consumers and the rest, to look and see, what effect would some market ideas have. So that's the path that we're on, and we're going to continue that. I'm trying to stay in 5 minutes. I'm certainly open to questions, Mr. Chairman, or anybody else if you have them.
You're doing good. So I take it that at this point you feel like the bill that's in front of us needs what we reference as perfecting before a vote?
Yes, sir.
You think it can be improved and more consensus built to support to address this problem of the illegal inducements?
Yes, sir, I do.
Right. Okay, well then let me hear from a few other folks. I got Mr. Les Snyder.
Slide behind you as you slide.
Sure. Snyder?
Thank you.
Give us your views.
I appreciate the opportunity to address it. I know the time is short, so I just want to go through certain parts of the bill, the last one that I saw, so I can bring it to your attention. I appreciate, number one, Senator Kennedy's diligence in terms of having the study committee and working through this.
We have before us LC 412959.
Okay, that would be the one I'd be
Any other
addressing.
proposals have not yet been put to paper.
All right. I would indicate on page 2 of that bill, the additional incentive payment, I think, is problematic. That's in the definition from 17 to 25, and we need to have much further discussions on that. The good cause definition, 31 to 32, is for a lawyer who deals in this area, it's not clear enough as to what good cause would be. I would also say to you that the lines 42 and 43, to attempt to try to keep somebody out of a business or forced to contract with somebody beyond the term of a contract for an additional 36 months is not a proper balance between location owners and master license holders. I do represent a lot of master license holders. I represent some location owners, but please understand that, as Mr. Olin indicated, this is a three-legged stool, and there cannot be the appearance or even the perception that location owners are just chattel of master license holders. There has to be a level playing field with these parties. Everybody has to live out their contract, but at the same time, we have to make sure this is done correctly.
So explain what that 36-month limitation there on line 43
In other words,
means.
what's happening is, Senator Cowsard, many times someone will have a contract, whether it's 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Obviously, the association I represent, and I believe most of the location owners, are of the view that people ought to live through their contracts, whatever it is, 2, 3, or 4 years. After that, people have the right, if they want to go with a different master, they make that choice. Now, I agree with Senator Kennedy. I am adamant that anybody who tries to get an inducement from a master license holder, or any master license holder who tries to give an inducement to a location owner, needs to be stopped. I was on the boxing commission for 10 years in this state. It was the only commission where people on the commission could take nothing of value from the people they regulated, so to speak. There was a reason for that.
What's the reason for that in this context? Why shouldn't a master licensee be able to give a bonus or a discount or an incentive to persuade somebody to use their machines?
Because it becomes a race to the bottom. In South Carolina and other states where this occurred, the payment of cash ended up destroying the industry. It ended up being not just cash for the particular location owner or master, it became cash for the players. And in fact, if you look in this bill on page 26, when you look at lines 669 to 672, it talks about the total cost of rewards provided to players by an operator shall not exceed 10% of the annual gross fee coin-operated amusement machine received by the operator licensee. The problem is that in South Carolina and in other states, language like this was used, and ended up having the industry ended up being banned because there was all this cash payout. I don't think this was intentional. I know Senator Kennedy would never be in favor of something like this. But at the end of the day, we have been very careful over the last 40 years to make sure that the language is tight. There's only non-cash redemption associated with this industry. On page 4 of the bill, just going over the details, lines 80 through 86, the idea of increasing the fees. Please understand that when this industry started, it has always been an industry where somebody small or somebody large was able to get into the business. The fees were not such that it creates a monopoly that only big players can come into this. There's a reason that we set Class B licenses at $5,000 and then a per machine fee. That created a fair level playing field for people to operate. You could have a business like this and have maybe 20 machines or have 300 machines or thousands of machines, and you paid proportionally. Today, there's over $11 million paid to the lottery just in license fees from location owners and master license holders. There's $90 million given to Hope and Pre-K through this program. This has been very, very successful. Senator Kennedy in his study committee heard a lot about gift cards. I believe that the gift card program, which I know the lottery already has a pilot project working on this, when this becomes a part of the landscape, you're going to see not only increased revenue relating to the money that goes directly to Hope and Pre-K, but you're going to see an insurgence of sales tax money that's going to be used for the general fund that's going to make this better. I would beseech all of you that we do this in a very careful manner and reach a consensus so that we can continue the success story that we are in the nation as far as handling this industry.
Got a question for you from the pro tem.
Sure.
I hate to interrupt, but
That's all right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you presenting and speaking on this bill. When you refer to gift cards, is that term interchangeable with reloadable cards?
Yet, Senator Miller, there are two types of gift cards that are being talked about. One is the generic gift card that you may see when you go into a convenience store or you go into Publix or Kroger. You can buy a gift card of your choice, Steak and Ale or
Sure.
Publix or whatever. That's a traditional
Steak
gift
and Ale.
card.
You're
that-
showing your age now, Steak and Ale.
You're exactly right, very much my age. The fact of the matter is those are non-cash redemption cards. You use them,
Right.
it slides through, sales tax comes off, et cetera. You cannot get cash for those cards. Then we are talking about the concept of a lottery gift card that would be produced by the Georgia Lottery that can be used for redemption at the location or anywhere else. And again, whatever you're able to buy legally, you could use for the card, as it is in today's world. This would bring a great deal of money to the lottery and to the state. It also is the greatest impediment against cash payout. There needs to be that impediment because at the end of the day, if somebody is doing it incorrectly, we probably will get to the point, and again, this is developing it over time, where only gift cards can be utilized for non-cash redemption or a lottery product, being a pick 3 or a pick 4 or a pick 5 ticket. So this is a very successful program.
So the answer to that question is, if I could make sure that I understand it, gift cards are non-redeemable for cash.
Right.
You have another card that is redeemable for cash.
No, it is not redeemable for cash.
Not redeemable.
No.
Neither are redeemable for cash.
That's correct.
And is either of those cards reloadable?
That will depend upon what the lottery ultimately does. In the bill, not in this bill, but there's another bill over in the House, it talks about giving the lottery and the industry the maximum flexibility, whether they're loadable or not loadable. It can be either option. And again, the legislation over in the House does not draw saying this is definitely the way to do it. It's going to leave it to the lottery to make a determination whether it should be loadable or reloadable.
Is the author receptive to reloadable?
Let's ask him. Senator Kennedy, and you might have a question.
Well, my bill does not address gift cards.
Right.
And so that's not a concept that we've got that's addressed here. I think Mr. Snyder's got a bill that he has proposed, or he has a House sponsor that does have gift cards or that aspect. So I would want to, and I've not read his bill. I want to see what that bill does, but it's not in here because I'm not in accord with it right now, number one. But number two, with the Georgia Lottery Corporation having a pilot program, I think we need to wait and see what we learn from all the work that they're doing before we certainly do something like legislate that without the benefit of what they will have learned through their program.
Senator Kennedy, did you have a question as well? I'm sorry.
So from that, I say that you would not be amenable to a friendly amendment to include reloadable cards. Is that what I interpret from that?
Mr. Pro Tem, the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
And when I
Sure.
hear that, I think of a plethora of different options of what that may look like. And so I'd be happy to work with you and look at that.
I'd appreciate some discussion on it just to
Yes,
see
sir.
if it's something that would work. I think we've been talking about reloadable cards since 2013. And I know it's come up literally every session. And I know it was a real opportunity in 2013, and we had at the 11th hour, we couldn't get that in there to make it work then. I would hope that we would take it into consideration at least this time. Thanks.
Be happy talking with you about it. Thank you.
And
Mr. Snyder, just one quick
I'm
question.
sorry.
I know
Sure.
we're actually probably already out of time
Yeah.
for your presentation, but the chairman asked a question about what's the problem with paying incentives? And your answer, as I understood it, was because the cash payments was a race to the bottom. And to me, that's a different issue. The payment of, if incentives are made legal through a change of this bill or some other bill, then it wouldn't be a cash payment. That's very different. It would be an above the board, on top of the table payment pursuant to a formula that would be prescribed by the statute. So I would ask, just follow back up, what is your opinion and what is the problem with having an incentive component within the model so that master license holders can pay to locations incentives for contracting with them?
Number one, if I've learned anything else in the last 40 years I've been here, I'm malleable for cause. So the fact of the matter is that it does need to be talked about. The problem is when I say a race to the bottom, what I mean is the last thing we want, for instance, is if we said, well, we could pay up to 10% of the total revenues back to the location owner. The question is, does that incentivize the location owner to do something improper? that is encourage cash payout because he thinks that'll create more money for him than the gift card or anything else that somebody does for a non-cash redemption.
But he's already incented to do that because the location gets 45% of the take, so that if he's incented, as you suggest, by higher sales or higher use of the machines, he's already there. So there's no difference there.
There is, if the incentives, if the redemption is being done properly, your point is well taken, and that's what we subscribe today. But that's why they're getting 45% of the revenue now. The question becomes, it would be as if somebody who sold cars or somebody who sold any widgets, if they all of a sudden were incentivized to say, look, you get under the table payment, or even you get an over the table payment. The problem is if it runs in this business, I have seen it in other states where it has caused a problem. The South Carolina model that occurred when they were paying people money under the table to play the games created greater revenue, and there was a lot of arguments. All I'm saying is that.
And Mr. Snyder, back to my question.
Yes.
I get that. I think we all agree the under-the-table payments, the payments that are inconsistent or illegal under the current statute, that's what my bill is trying to address. You and I are in agreement with that. My question was, and we'll just have to talk more offline, is your opinions about the payment of making incentive payments legal so they can be done properly with proper accounting. So thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, and I understand your point. I just think it has to be thoroughly looked at.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Snyder. As the bill is drafted currently, would you be in support of it or against it?
In the way it's currently drafted, I would have to be, because of the effect on location owners and many small master license holders, we would be against it at this point in time. But I think with work on it and some of the things that's in 544, I think I would be hopeful, because I'm always hopeful here.
544 would be a House bill
Yes,
you're referencing. Has it passed the House yet?
No, it is presently in rules right now.
All right, I'm going to hold the remainder of your testimony till later. We're not going to have time to have a vote today, and I need to hear a couple of different viewpoints. As much as anything, I just need to educate this committee, because there is a bill percolating in the House, and this one might be gotten into a form for us to consider again tomorrow, theoretically. We don't have a meeting scheduled as of this time, but I'm amenable to considering that if there is a committee sub presented to me today. So thank you for being here. I'd save your remainder of your thoughts until
the next time.
Another time.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and I always appreciate the efforts of this committee in trying to reach a good conclusion to a situation. Thank you.
All righty. I want to hear from Josh Belinfante, Ultra Group of COs. I don't know if that's companies or what. If you're out in the hall, Mr. Belinfante, please come in.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Les.
How are you, sir?
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. I'll be exceedingly brief today. I've worked in this industry since about 2013, representing clients, mostly master licensees, but occasionally a store owner or two, and a distributor as well. And I am here on behalf of Ultra, which is a master licensee and has been in Georgia for some time. Like I said, I'm going to be very brief. There's a lot in the bill we like. The enhanced transparency, aspects of having masters provide more information to the lottery like we see in other states. We think all of those are steps in the right direction. Our concerns are truly limited to Section 10 and Section 11 of the bill. Those are the pieces that deal with contracts between masters and location licensees and the locking in for 1 year with a 7-year option, as well as some of the ways that a master would have to pay another master just to take a store and moving away from the contractual basis. I think from what we've seen, the industry is working relatively well in terms of, or actually quite well, in terms of some of the issues that are there. We do think some of the issues, Senator, that you address in the bill, we think need to be addressed. But for overall, those are the two areas that give us concern.
I, am not afraid to ask a dumb question, because I know there's a lot of people in this room don't comprehend this any better than I do. Why do we even need a master licensee? Why not just license the locations and let the lottery, hook their machines up the same way they do now to tell how much revenue they're getting?
I think a couple reasons, and it goes back to how the industry was operating even prior to 2013. In some ways, there's always been the master licensee, and that's what the General Assembly chose to codify in 2013.
But they weren't even licensed before 2013.
They had a permit sticker through the Department of Revenue.
Okay, they just own the machines, and they essentially are leasing them to these convenience stores.
Correct. And servicing them, which is a big part of it. And so if you look at the changes, I think to answer that question, it's the capital intensive side is on the master licensee side. And if you look at what has happened since 2013, we've really had the influx of new technology, better technology, all of which has been very capital intensive on the master. And it's those new machines, if you look statistically, that are generating so much more comparatively for the lottery and for the students than the old machines. And it's because of the way that the bill was set up in 2013 that has provided those incentives. That's where the service requirements are. It's where the capital to get the machines and replace the machines and the stools and everything that goes with it. So I
Who
think
makes them? Who are the manufacturers of these devices?
There's several. They're also licensed by the lottery. IGT makes some, Vanilla makes some, Primero makes some. I know there's others.
Okay.
But those are ones that I'm probably most familiar with.
So why wouldn't those manufacturers just sell them directly to a convenience store or lease them to them and say, we'll maintain your machine for you? That's where I'm missing the gap. Why did we build in this extra level of a cut of the pie, so to speak?
Sure.
You know?
Many of those, I don't want to speak for them. I don't represent them, so I don't want to answer a question for them. But I think at least in 2013, having worked on the bill at that point, part of the issue was with the masters, you had people in the state who'd been there for decades in some cases, and they knew their customers, they knew how to fix these machines, they knew how to operate the machines, and that was a value that the legislature chose at that time. And again, I think the numbers have shown from the lottery that it is working in that sense.
All right, so Chuck E. Cheese, you've got kids, take them to a
Right.
party there, and they're going to have coin-operated amusement machines. Nobody has to have a license to have those. They either buy them for their location or they lease them from whoever makes them or whatever. It's the same concept. Those were generated to get customer interest in going to take your birthday party to Chuck E. Cheese's instead of, Pizza Hut.
Right. And I will say, having played video games as a kid at both Chuck E. Cheese and at Pizza Hut and having my kids do it now, those are licensed games. They're Class A. They're just not subject to the same regulation because they don't have the replay function. And the General Assembly viewed that replay function, which generated higher non-cash redemption, as something that warranted more regulation. And other states have looked at that the same way.
And the real reason for that regulation is to keep these people from making them gambling machines and giving cash payouts.
That was certainly the intent of the General Assembly in 2013.
It's just an incentive and inducement to make people come to your convenience store instead of Joe Johnson's down the street because you have these entertainment devices there as well.
And that's exactly where the new machines come in, because it's when you're competing as a store owner and the master provides you with that new machine, maybe better software, better games, that gets you into that store. And while you're there, you're using your non-cash redemption to buy product, gas, et cetera. So yes, that is part of it.
Do you have any idea what the sales are in these machines per year in Georgia?
I don't, but I know we could, at least the association or the lottery could get you that information, but I don't.
Are you for or against this bill in its current form? You have two sections apparently you're not comfortable with.
Right. We would oppose it in its current form because of sections 10 and 11. We're supportive of the House bill, and we think there's a lot of stuff in this bill that is actually an improvement on some of the portions of the House bill, but it's sections 10 and 11 that causes concern as written.
I see some committee members catching my eye. Any questions? We got a few seconds here. Senator Harbison, the Dean of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question. In the bill in the House, does it address, as Senator Kennedy made sure that we dealt with in the Senate, the piece regarding the opportunity for veteran organizations to have operations like that?
I believe it does. And in case it does not, but I'm pretty sure it does. In case it does not, that's something we fully support as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. We are up against a pretty hard stop on time. Appreciate you being here. The other folks signed up in the hall, you will not be forgotten. if we take this bill up, I'll start with you guys on the testimony list. Senator Kennedy, it is my opinion that we got an unfinished product right now, probably not ready for action. Would you concur?
I would, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to ask you if your different factions can get together and come up with something that's, you know, some type of consensus to try to get that to me today, and I'll see if there's a way we could have a meeting. My sense is that this is a little bit more complex than we can probably handle properly before crossover day, but it's sounding like there's a House counterpart that'll come over, and this will help us be prepared to deal with that. And we can talk privately this afternoon to decide that. I'm going to recognize the Rules Chairman has a comment there before we.
Thank you. And this is not for Mr. Belafonte. It's just for the whole scenario. I've met with all sides. The big master license, the medium size, and the operator. Seems like the medium size, and I've told the big license folks, and the operators are all together, and they're fearful that the big master licenses are just trying to dominate the issue and control it and make more money. So they have no a positive opinion about this issue right now. So I don't know what we to do about that, but the local folks in my area are very important to me.
So you're looking after the big guys, and you want to make sure they're okay before you.
Well, I'll look under my truck before I crank it.
You kept saying the big guys, so I was sort of.
Well, you know, the big master license and the medium, and then the operator. There's a division there. And I've told the big master license that too.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's time and all the testimony this morning on all these issues. With that, we will stand adjourned. Stay tuned to see whether we can continue this before crossover day.